Hello, everybody, and welcome back to USA Karate's Meet Our Olympic Hopefuls series. This week, we are sitting down with Cirrus Lingl, who will be representing Team USA at the Paris Olympic qualifier in the plus 61 kilogram division for her chance to compete at the Tokyo Olympic Games this coming summer. Cirrus is formerly a 7-time member of our junior national team and now current member of our senior national team. She took home the title of national champion in both 2016 and 2018 and has made her presence known internationally, taking home gold at the Junior Pan American Championships in 2018. In 2019, she took home a bronze medal in the women's kumite plus 68 kilogram division event at the Pan American Games held in Lima, Peru. She is a Shotokan style fighter and resides at the Illinois Shotokan Karate Club, where she trains with coach Brian Mertel. Welcome, Cirrus. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Jumping right into questions, I think the perfect place to start is to get to know a little bit more about you and how you got involved in karate. So when did you start karate and why?
So I started karate when I was 7 years old, and me and my sister Skylar, we both started karate at the same time because my dad saw an advertisement in one of the school brochures that like our park district gives out, and he recognized the name of our karate club, ISKC, and because he did karate through ISKC a little bit when he was in college. So when he saw it in the brochure, he was like, "Do you guys want to do karate?" And he knew it was a good karate school, and me and my sister were both super excited about it. So they signed us up because they gave us something to do on Tuesday afternoons instead of just sitting at school, for a couple hours until they're done with work.
Did you play any other sports growing up other than karate, or did you just focus on karate?
No, I did gymnastics until I was 17. So until I was 17, I did gymnastics and karate, and it took up a lot of time in my life, but it kept me busy. And, we always talk about that, the things that I learned in gymnastics and the strength and the physical awareness of my body always helped me in karate, and the discipline and a bunch of the karate aspects also helped me in gymnastics. So it was a good balance for the both.
Oh, wow. And
Yeah.
what was it about karate in particular that made you fall in love with the sport? And how is karate different than gymnastics that attracted you to it more long term? Even though gymnastics was long term for you. For sure.
Yeah. Well, with karate, I enjoyed the aspect of competing a lot. Like, from when I first started making the junior PKF trips, like that kind of got me hooked on it right away. And with gymnastics too, even I plateaued like at the end. Like I stayed at the same level for, the last couple years that I was competing. And I could see that like in karate, I just kept getting better, and I wanted to see like how much better I could make myself. So that's ultimately what made me decide between, like the two that made me decide to commit more to karate in the long term.
Mm-hmm. And when you're not training in karate, do you take part in instructing or coaching younger athletes?
Yeah, so I'm a part-time instructor right now since I'm still in school. I'm only a part-time instructor, but I love teaching little kids. I like being able to have fun and pass down the love of the love for karate that I have down onto them, just like my senseis did for me.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you've learned from it or learned about yourself while instructing that you haven't when you're an athlete?
Patience. I had to learn how to be patient, especially, like teaching like the little kids, like the pre-karate kids, we call them, they're 4, 5, 6 years old. Like it's less about like, it's obviously they're there to learn about karate, but they're also there to learn about, the discipline and how to listen to their teachers and how to behave around other kids while also still having fun and still learning karate and all that kind of stuff. So learning patience, because I had never been exposed to little kids like that. So when I first it was a big learning curve, but now I love it. I absolutely adore them.
Oh, this kind of actually ties into what you were saying a little bit. What are your favorite parts about karate? Is it the competitions, the milestones you achieve, the training, or maybe the friendships? I'm just curious about what moments you've experienced that help motivate you to put a ton of work into the sport that you love.
So I think the part that I love the most, like, is the training aspect of it, just because, you don't see the progress as much like day to day, especially once you get to a higher level. It's tiny little increments that add up over time instead of, these huge jumps like when you were little. So, but then like seeing those little increments add up, like when you go to compete and putting it all like out on the floor and like seeing all the work that you've done, like that's like my favorite part is seeing like how good I've become through my training while I'm like at a competition. And obviously I love my teammates too. I couldn't do it without them. They keep me sane.
Moving into competitions, of all of the tournaments you've competed in so far, which one has been your favorite and why?
Um, I think my favorite one thus far was the Pan Am Games in 2019, just because it was like it was such a different tournament than like not the tournament itself, but I guess the like the atmosphere surrounding the tournament was nothing like any of the other ones I had been to before, and it was such a cool experience, to live in the like in the Pan Am Games village and like go to the food court, and we went to watch fencing and that was super cool, and just the whole experience surrounding the tournament and then competing there as well. It was definitely like it was definitely I think one of my favorite ones.
How do you go about getting ready for competition? Do you have any certain rituals or anything?
Like right before the competition, you mean?
Sure. Yeah, leading up to it that same day, do you wake
That
up and you're like 6 a.m. I have to be up and eat oats or any particular regiments that you may have?
Yeah, so I like to wake up, I don't want to say early, but enough time before to where like I get moving and I get my brain moving, I get my body moving just so, I'm plenty awake and I don't have to worry about that. I used to like get so nervous that I wouldn't eat breakfast, but now I'm like I can't function without breakfast. So I'm not particular in what I eat for breakfast, but I definitely have to like eat some kind of food. It's not like a huge breakfast, but I do have to eat some food. And then I mean something I'll listen to music generally, but I don't have like a specific like playlist or artist or genre that I listen to. It's just kind of I guess whatever I'm in the mood for that day. And then I always try to get like a good warm up in. Like I need to get a good sweat going just because that's when I do my best karate is when I'm, moving and thinking less and just letting my body and my training take over at that point.
Yeah, when you say a good warm up, is there anything that comes to mind that you're like, I really want to do this and I know I'm going to be prepared for that? Or is it just as long as you get out there and you get moving, you're pretty good?
Yeah, it's more as long as I get out there and get moving, then I'm good. As long as I think the one thing I always try to warm up is like my shoot on reverse punch, but it's never like in a certain scenario. I'll do it during timing or if I initiate like an exchange or something, that's like my base technique. So I like to make sure that that's, ready to go.
Who would you say is your biggest cheerleader at events?
My parents, absolutely, my parents are the biggest cheerleaders. You can always like there's always videos, whether it's on my phone or on Facebook Live. They love to cheer me on and they're always right there and supporting me both on and off the mat. So they're definitely my biggest cheerleaders. You'll always hear them in the crowd.
Oh, that is so sweet. Um,
Yeah.
now we want to ask you a little bit more about your life outside of karate. So, what do you study in school? Are you part of any clubs? And what does your life outside of karate look like?
So I right now I'm at Roosevelt University in downtown Chicago, and I'm studying marketing. I will actually be graduating in May, which is super exciting. Um, I am not currently a part of any clubs. I'm a little limited on time when it comes to that, and a lot of the clubs meet, downtown, and I'm not that close to downtown, where it's just like a hop, skip, and a jump to get over there. It's normally like a little bit of planning that gets, goes into me going down there. So I'm not a part of any clubs, but yeah, I mean, right now my life outside of karate is, not a whole lot because of Corona, but pre-Corona, I guess you could say, I generally just like to find time to like hang out with my friends, whether it's just like, walk around the mall or going to Top Golf or going to the movie theaters or just hanging out at like my house or their house, just, spending time with people. It's good to have fun and have the balance between the two.
And as an elite athlete who's also a full time student off of the mat, how difficult has it been to balance your normal hectic karate schedule while also focusing on school?
It is definitely very difficult, especially when, teachers aren't always the most understanding or, believe you when you say that, you're an international athlete. They don't always necessarily believe you. So it's just, I have to stay on top of my, assignments and my work and just make sure I get it done no matter what it takes on, in both karate and in school. I just have to get it done.
And then moving along, we wanted to talk with all of our athletes specifically about COVID-19 and its impact that it's had on your training. Talk us through that. How did COVID-19 affect you personally, and how have you had to make adjustments so that you're able to effectively train?
So at the very beginning, when the lockdown started, we obviously were stuck in our personal homes, and I was stuck at home, and I'm very fortunate to have a small tatami set up in my basement where me and my sister and my dad would sometimes train down there. So whether it was like a physical like gym type workout or whether it was like a kumite workout, we were able to stay in shape and keep progressing that way. And then as things began to open up, we were able to resume to a little more in-person training, but we still had to be at a distance, and we're still not allowed to fight other people. So I'm mainly only fighting my family members on a daily or weekly basis, and that's just what's been getting me through training, because I don't know how I would feel if I wasn't able to punch other people. It's okay, like we can still train with our teammates, but we have like our own little squares, or we have to punch like pads that they hold out. Like I'm not allowed to, we're not allowed to be that close to other people. So I definitely miss training with my teammates since we're not in classes right now in Chicago. So it's difficult, that's for sure. But I think we're doing a good job of handling it.
And as you said, you're luckily able to train with your sister and senior teammate, Skylar Lingl. How has that been? Have you guys been keeping each other motivated? And how has that dynamic really helped you be successful?
Yeah, I think just the sister dynamic we have, siblings always have a competitive nature. So, if one wants to train, then the other also wants to train for the most part. There's not too many days where one of us will train and the other one won't. So I think that's just the biggest motivator, is just, keeping the other one in check while we keep ourselves in check.
How have you prepared for this year's event season, which looks like it feels right around the corner from now? So what have you been doing, and what do the next few weeks and months look like for you as you prepare for it?
So when we first, what was that, like 6 months ago, we were doing a lot of strength training and making sure to, increase my strength so that could help with my speed and explosiveness. And now we're transferring all that strength energy into that explosive energy, and making sure that they're fast twitch muscles. And now we're increasing cardio again to make sure that I'm ready to go for 3-minute rounds for 5, 6, 7 rounds if I need to at a tournament. And it's just shifting from more strength training to more karate focus, to putting myself in matches and in scenarios and stuff like that.
Circling back around to having to train at home, a lot of athletes talked about how it gave them a little bit of a break that they may have needed. How was that for you? Was it kind of stressful not having a hectic schedule like you're used to?
Yeah, it was really weird to have to slow down, because you go from working and teaching and training and doing schoolwork all at the same day, and just go to trying to find ways to just fill the time like in the day and make time go by a little bit faster. But at the end of the day, it was nice to kind of slow down a little bit. And we originally didn't take a break at all, but then I took a couple weeks off once we realized that there weren't any tournaments right around the corner, to make sure that my body and more so my mind were ready when the tournaments did come around again.
So now that we are nearing the 2021 event season, what have you missed most about competition that you're excited to get back to?
Just the feeling of being on the mat, like the build up to getting ready for a tournament, and all like the little bit of nerves and a little bit of anxiety, and just the suspense almost of waiting to compete, and then finally being able to compete and do what you've been practicing, like in front of people and under pressure and on the tatami in front of whoever.
Next up, we wanted to ask you specifically about the Paris Olympic qualifier and the Tokyo Olympics, which are again right around the corner. So, to start off, though, let's flash back to when we all first found out that karate would be included in this year's games. So, back in 2016, when it was first announced that karate would be introduced as an Olympic sport in Tokyo, what were your initial thoughts? How did your training, your outlook, and goals change with the news?
When it was announced that they would be in the Olympics, it was right when I was finishing up high school, and it was right when I had stopped. It wasn't long after I had stopped doing gymnastics, so I was focusing solely on karate. So when it was announced and I finished high school that, that they would be in the Olympics, it was just, I discussed it with my coach and we were like, should we do it? And it was obvious. It was just an obvious answer. It was like, we may as well do it. We may as well go for it. Like, we're in the perfect position to do it. So why not? Like, I would regret not doing it if I hadn't tried.
So, how did it feel when you finally secured your spot on the Paris team back in January of 2020? Talk us through this. What was going through your head? How did you feel? And how did kind of your mindset change with that?
Oh my gosh, it was such a liberating feeling just because, like we had, as soon as like pretty much when I finished high school, like we started like right away, we are like, we're gonna like train to make like the Olympics essentially, because that was like right when everything was picking up. And so then to finally, to take like another important step in that direction was like very liberating. And it was definitely one of the most exciting feelings like I've had in my life, like up to this point. It was liberating just because, like the final match especially, like I was going the whole day and it was a long day of competition, but then it got down, it was the last match and I was, trailing, I was losing until the last, like, I forget, it was like 15 or 20, 25 seconds or something like that. And I scored a head kick that put me ahead. And so like when I got that, I was like, it was really like within my grasp. So then like at that point, I was just like, I hit, I needed to calm myself down, but I also needed to like finish, what I had started and make sure that now that it was like kind of like in my grasp, not to like lose it at that point. So then when it did happen and, they called Yame, oh my God, it was, it was one of the best feelings.
Would you consider this to be one of the most important matches that you've competed in thus far?
I would say yes. It's definitely, head of, yeah, for sure. It definitely is one of the most important matches thus far. And, hopefully in June there will be some more important matches that I win that'll top that one, but I couldn't have gotten to the June qualifier obviously without this match. So by far is one of the most important ones.
And then looking ahead to the Paris qualifier, what would you say you're most hoping to accomplish? What goals have you set for yourself, and how are you going to be measuring success this year?
Well, I definitely have the goal set to qualify for the Olympics, obviously. So whether that's in spot, obviously we would ideally that would be in spot number one at the qualifier. But on any of the spots, honestly, is an Olympic spot at the games. And like there's a certain part of me that'll measure success that way, but then there's also a part of me that will measure success in like a personal view, like the way that I see how I've progressed with my training and how much more confident I feel in myself and just how my karate has gotten better and how I've gotten better as a person because of it in the process.
And for every athlete, I'm sure there's matches where you hope to come out successful and you may not measure up to where you're hoping to go. How do you come out of those matches with a positive attitude, or do you?
That's definitely one of my weaknesses. Like that's something that I've been working on a lot in the last couple years because because I am so competitive, I can get very down on myself when I don't um, like perform up to the standards that I know I can. So I think immediately after a match, I always am down a little bit, but as time progresses on, I start to, broaden the view and not be so like have such tunnel vision that I see like the good parts and where I could have like maybe gone wrong or where I can improve. So I definitely think that's something that I'm working on and it's better than it used to be, but definitely can still get better.
Do you think you take more away from the matches that you win or the matches that you lose?
I would say I take more away from the ones that I lose because I'm a very like hands-on learner. So when I make mistakes that, may cost me a match or, may cost me a point, I think that sometimes I learn the best that way, even though it's an unfortunate way to learn sometimes. And we hope we get those out in the dojo as opposed to on the tatami.
As of right now, karate will no longer be an Olympic sport following this year's games. What impact has this had on you, your training, and your Olympic dreams?
I haven't really thought about that thought that much a whole lot, just because that's not like the number one priority right now, and that's way off into the future, and I more so need to worry about like what's happening now and in the much nearer future. So I think the reality of that will set in more after the game.
So, looking beyond the Paris Olympic qualifier and the Tokyo Games, what are your goals for your career moving forward? What happens after Tokyo?
Well, I definitely want to keep training, and my goal has always just been to be the best at the best karate person, like karate player that I can be. So whether that's, winning the Olympic Games or winning the World Championships or winning the Senior Pan American Championships, like I just I want to see how good I can be as an athlete, and that's wherever that takes me. That's where I want to go.
Reflecting on your career so far, what would you consider to be your biggest accomplishment?
I would say the biggest accomplishment I've had is, I would say, qualifying for the Paris qualifier, just because, we trained for that for so long and mentally prepared for that for so long. And, I fought like 9 matches in the same day, which is more than I've ever fought in one day. So it took a lot of preparation. That, or when I won the bronze at the Pan American Games in 2019, just because that environment was so different than any other environment that I had been in before. So being able to adapt and still take home a medal was really exciting, and I was happy with it.
And what would your advice be to karate athletes who are maybe just getting started with the sport?
I would say to just have fun and, enjoy the process and keep training, because that's like the best part to me. As much fun as competing is, like I wouldn't be able to compete without the process that comes before it. So you have to find the joy in the days that are good and the days that are bad beforehand, because that's what leads you to the podium, and that's what leads you to have more good days on, in competition.
Can you name something that you've learned through karate and all of your years of training that you take with you off of the mat?
Being myself. Like karate has taught me a lot to be myself, and whether I'm in a fight or whether I'm meeting, new friends or new teammates or whatever, I just have to be myself, because obviously that's what I do best.
Lastly, what are you hoping for those who will be tuning in to the Tokyo Olympics who are maybe not as familiar with karate? What are you hoping that they take away from that experience?
I hope that they take away that karate is different from other forms of like martial arts, and that it's like a sport all on its own that's different from, taekwondo or judo or boxing or other, martial arts, because they all are, very different, and we don't want it to look like any of the other ones. That it's special in its own way.
Awesome. Well, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you wanted to add? It can be about yourself, karate, or just any shout outs that you have.
Oh, I don't think so. Not right now, at least.
That's okay. Well, those are all the questions that I have for you today. Thank you again
All
to
right.
Cirrus for joining us. Good luck in 2021, and we are very excited to see all that you accomplish this year.
Thank you. I can't wait. I'm excited.